Welcome to the Cosmic Cafe, everyone. The year 2025 is upon us, and it is packed with incredible new cycles. Most of the slow-moving planets are moving to new signs. Pluto has preceded them, being now in Aquarius, and yet so much is yet to come. The nodes are shifting to a new axis. And some of us will speak about the Mars cycle, about the Venus cycle, and about how to make the best, really, of these alignments. Because what is the virtue of astrology is to be in alignment with cosmic intelligence. So astrology instructs us, shares with us, this is a tool available for us. It's a gift to help us really make the best of our lives, of our destinies. When we look at 2025 and we see these changes, we understand we are part of a larger cycle, of a larger reality. And being in tune with that reality helps us receive universal guidance and benevolence. So the more in tune we are with the cycles of the planet, the healthier and more fulfilled we can be, because there's no beating being in alignment with the cosmos. You become one and you receive all that there is available for you. So without further ado, I would like to briefly introduce all the speakers, knowing that they will also introduce their own work individually. Excuse me. Richard from Connecticut is an evolutionary astrologer, and he will be speaking about the nodes shifting from Aries Libra to Pisces Virgo. Susie Holbrook, based in Salt Lake City, Utah, is an evolutionary astrologer, focusing also on functional medicine. So one of the gifts from Susie is to understand how to use astrology preventively in order to stay healthy. So connecting body with soul. Hannah, evolutionary astrologer from Chicago, originally from Brazil. Anna is leading an evolutionary course as well that she can share with some of the students in this class. Debbie is based in Florida and is going to speak about how to empower ourselves with the new year. And Debbie's website is Fun with Astrology, so no going wrong there. Merriman Cassell is, drum roll, an Akashic record, Uranian, vibrational, and traditional astrologer, who's also publishing a yearly journal, an astrology calendar, which she will be talking about. And Merriman is based in Sedona, so we are neighbors, Sedona, Arizona. Myself, Maurice Fernandez, based in Arizona, indeed, also evolutionary astrology. And I'm glad to have this amazing crowd with us to present on this eventful new year. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you for celebrating astrology and doing it justice. So, Richard, let's start with what is most eminent coming up in just a couple of weeks or so. The nodes shifting to Pisces Virgo.
Awesome. I just have to share my screen. let me go ahead and get started. Perfect. Awesome. Well, for those of you who don't know me, yes, my name is Richard. I am an evolutionary astrologer and very passionate about understanding and exploring the journey of the soul. And there's no better placement for me to look at than our North and South node. Um, so on July 11th of 2025, the North node will depart from Aries and enter Pisces, effectively changing the tides. And we will start to feel this energy gradually unfolding. I think some of us could have felt this as early as September 17th during that eclipse. And so for those of you who are interested in learning a little bit more about me, I do a lot of work on social media, on TikTok and Instagram. So you're more than welcome to kind of hang out and join me over there. And my website is thestarwhisperer.com, where I go a little bit more in length about my practice with evolutionary astrology. Okay. So I always like to discuss and bring up what the lunar nodes mean to me before I really get into discussing Pisces and Virgo, because as an evolutionary astrologer, I look at the North and South node sometimes quite differently than what some people are used to. And so whenever I see the North and the South node, I always like to emphasize that we need to remember that the North and the South node that we utilize in evolutionary astrology and that we talk about so much is tied to the moon. And in evolutionary astrology, the moon is tied to our understanding of an individual's current life ego structure and their self-image. This is a basis or is developed through past emotional conditioning, early emotional conditioning of the current life. And so when we look at the North and the South node is our opportunity to get a glimpse into the soul's journey. Where are they coming from and how did the soul understand itself? What was the past life ego structure in the most recent past life? And there's always this angle to view this in. If we are reincarnating once again here on Earth, there are lessons that have not been resolved or learned or integrated, which is where we see the North node coming into the equation. And the North node presents us, when we look at a chart, with the opportunity for us to become aware and conscious of what must be integrated in the ego structure. It is our opportunity to see the evolutionary journey of what the soul is asking for itself. And so whenever we start integrating the North and the South node by transits, I like to look at it almost as the pulse that is unfolding of evolution for an individual and collectively. It shows us where we are navigating. And when we look at the North node in Pisces today and the South node in Virgo, I always encourage individuals to look at your own individual natal chart to become aware of where your North and South node are by house and sign, because these transits that are unfolding with Pisces and Virgo are always going to be bringing up themes that reflect back to your own individual natal chart and what is going on with your nodal axis. So again, we are now going through this shift where we are leaving Mars being the planetary ruler of the North node, and Neptune is going to take over. We are also saying goodbye to Venus, and we are welcoming Mercury to this arena. And I think this is important for us to understand because Neptune is also uniquely entering and beginning to prepare for its entrance actually into Aries. And I think this is a kind of a unique energy for us to just contemplate as we've had so much time with the Aries North node, and now Aries is shifting into Neptune's sign, and Neptune is shifting into Aries. There's a relationship here that is happening for us. And it'll be interesting to see collectively how this unfolds for us with our relationship with each other, our relationship with our own individual autonomy, but even at a country level, at a global level. One thing Marie said in the beginning was we are in such a divided time. And if there is an opportunity for us to come together in some sort of way, our best hope is going to be through this Pisces journey of being able to find some level of coming together in a non-judgmental way where we can see each other for what our faults may be, but being able to still have love and compassion for each other. And so when the North node enters Pisces, there are a few things that I think are important for us to look out for, to be aware of, to be conscious of. And one of the most prominent things that we're going to notice is that we are switching from a dimension of focusing on ourselves, Aries, and instinct, and switching into Pisces, which is requiring for us to lean into faith and trust and learning to let go and surrender. There's going to be this natural unfolding of energy where we have to align ourselves with that source of which created this experience. When we reach and enter into Pisces territory, it's almost as if we need to surrender. And whenever I say the word surrender, it's almost like, what are you surrendering and where are you surrendering to? And there is a natural flow to this life experience. And Pisces is trying to reconnect and reunite us with that. It's trying to help us see that the universe is within me, that is within you. And until we're able to recognize the oneness of this human experience, we begin to create a potential disillusionment that manifests through Pisces. And so there's something about this where sometimes in life you're not going to have everything figured out. This is the South Node in Virgo. As much as you want to know the specific details of how things are going to work out and you want to understand everything practically and pragmatically, with the North Node in Pisces, it might not work that way for you. It's almost like this is the opportunity for you to lean in and let God take the wheel, metaphorically speaking here. And this is an opportunity for us to build our relationship with what spirit or universe or ultimate truth means to us. Because at the end of the day, what we think is the truth is only half of the truth. There is so much more for us to go. And I believe that as the North Node enters Pisces, these are going to be some big themes that are showing up for us. I also feel like with the North Node entering Pisces, there's going to be a strong emphasis on healing, emotional healing, and if there are individuals that have been struggling with different forms of addictions, mental health issues, if there have been any sort of, I want to say health in general, because when we deal with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, we're going to find that there are health elements, the healthcare industry, anything to do with health is super, super prominent for me when we tie in the nodal axis into Pisces and Virgo. Um, this is another huge time from a historical perspective where we find when the North Node is in Pisces, we find that from a creative perspective, what's happening in the country and in the world is beautiful. There's been many, many movements that have unfolded during the time of the North Node in Pisces. I was looking back into 2006 when the North Node was in Pisces, and this was the year that The Secret was released. For those of you who are interested in this or are familiar, this talked a lot about the law of attraction and connecting individuals with deeper elements of understanding vibration and understanding frequency in this human experience. Another big thing that we'll find here within Pisces is this understanding of what boundaries are and how boundaries that divide us as humanity, as human beings, we are trying to find ways to come together. And if there is any hope in the context with everything that is happening on the planet, the North Node in Pisces could actually pave way for us to find ways to come together, to find ways to no longer separate each other, but to find that, like I said earlier, the universe within each other and be able to have compassion for each other. And so this is just a quote that I wrote to help us tune a little bit more into the North Node of Pisces. The soul is called to dissolve the barriers of separation and surrender to the flow of divine wisdom. This is the basis for me of the North Node of Pisces. And so 3 things that I want you guys to be cautious of with the North Node in Pisces is escapism, disillusionment, and spiritual bypassing. And if you're not familiar with spiritual bypassing, by the way, Maurice has an amazing video where he talks a lot about spiritual bypassing. And what's happening here is that we need to be careful of how we are escaping reality, how we could potentially be overly idealistic, putting on those rose-colored glasses. This is where we may find individuals coming into those reality checks, maybe unfolding here. Equally, at the same token, we need to make sure that we are not diving so far into the spiritual world that we are preventing ourselves from doing the deeper personal, physical human work that we are meant to do. And that talks a lot about the spiritual bypassing, all of which is common, I think, with Pisces and Virgo. So when the South Node enters Virgo, there are a few things that I also want to bring up here is because we are dealing with the axis where we are dealing with perfectionism. Both Pisces and Virgo can struggle with various forms of perfectionism. And we need to be hyper aware of how perfectionism is almost in a way our own form of self-sabotage. Because what's happening here is we are trying to create something to be pure or perfect, and we want something to be this idealized version of what we think could exist. But we are essentially just lying to ourselves and not being honest with ourselves. And so, one of the things that Jeffrey Wolf Green used to say is we need to accept that the nature of this human experience is not perfect. And we need to look at it from the perspective that we are all coming here because we are not perfect and we have growth that needs to unfold. We have to heal and we are trying to reunite or align ourselves with Source, with God, with Goddess. And so we could see that over this South Node in Virgo, individuals that are trying very, very hard for things to be perfect or trying to get those nitty gritty details may struggle because it's not so much about the little details anymore. It's not so much about trying to solve every little detail to the point where it does become self-sacrifice or it does become neglecting yourself. And so one of the things that I would just say is that when the South Node enters Virgo, make sure that you're doing a mind, body, soul check-in. Make sure that you're taking care of your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. It is super important because we are dealing with the axis of service, and it is very easy for us to give ourselves to service at the expense of our own self and our own energy. And so with Virgo, this is a call for us to let go of the overanalysis and rigid ideals, trusting in the process of evolution and the quiet, subtle power of the soul's true essence. And I think this could be a magical experience for individuals who are placing their time and attention in developing and embodying their evolution, because this could be a very transformative time in the North Node in Pisces to understanding what that looks like. What is the soul essence for you? Again, one of the other things that I would just want to say is be careful of the control and crisis and how Virgo can create its own crisis. I always say where Virgo shows up for us is an invitation for us to see where crisis could unfold. And we need to be very cautious of this. Out of our desire to control things, is our desire for a sense of security. And our sense of security within Pisces is not something that is going to be physical or something that you can control. It's deeper. This is a call for us to go within. So with the South Node of Virgo, I apologize. The three things that I think we should be cautious of are neglecting ourselves, being careful of this because neglection of ourselves could lead to health issues in ourselves. It could lead to body stuff that's going on here, putting stress onto ourselves, which can create problems. Being cautious of how we are trying to force or potentially manipulate things to happen out of our desire for control. And I feel like with the South Node of Virgo, this could be a great call to action to look back in our life where we felt like things were out of control. And again, be very careful of perfectionism and burnout is huge with the South Node of Virgo. So be careful of those responsibilities just adding up. So this is kind of looking ahead into 2025, surfing the tides. So these are some things I'm personally watching collectively in the world. I'm definitely watching the political and social divide, which I was talking about earlier. I'm very interested to see what is unfolding as far as racial justice, gender equality, what is happening to not only our economy as a country, but what is happening to the economy of the world. How are we able to find that common ground and thread between each other? Normally, when I see strong Pisces energy, the North Node in Pisces, we do have Saturn a little bit longer in Pisces as well here. Will there be any other major political changes in the world? Are we going to see the development of new leaders coming to the table? Are we going to see a shift in leadership around the country, around the world? Are we going to see something happen like this? Healthcare. If you look at when the North Node and South Node are involved in the nodal axis, there's been a lot of developments when it comes to health-related dynamics. Normally the mutable axis, truly, but we find with the North Node and Pisces in history in the past 50 years, there's been a lot of developments of our healthcare system. The World Health Organization was involved in the North Node and Pisces as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the healthcare industry. Could we be looking at new developments in medicine, or are we going to be looking at potential new health problems that are surfacing? Are we escaping health problems here when we need to kind of tune into our body and take care of ourselves? Being more realistic with our body. Again, a lot of energy towards the creative space. I think this is going to be a huge opportunity for us to see the arts, movies, music, huge for us. We may notice a lot of music may become more spiritually inclined or tapping deeper into connecting or uniting individuals together. My other note that I put here is war. The last time Neptune and the North Node joined together was quite significant in human history. This dates back to 1858. This was the beginning of the US Civil War. There are a lot of other aspects that are happening, or planetary movements that are happening next year that do kind of indicate some sort of tension in the air. The tensions are higher, but could it even get higher here with the North Node and South Node in Virgo? It'll be interesting to see. I don't like to be a Debbie Downer here, but there's a reality to the situation that we're seeing, that we either need to find a way to come together, or there's a larger problem at hand that could take off. And so for those of you who like self-development work, it's just how I work personally with individuals. I love poking brains and going deeper into things. I came up with 5 questions for all of us to ask ourselves to really contemplate entering into 2025 with a lens of that North Node in Pisces. And so how can I cultivate more trust and flow in life and surrender to the unknown? What areas of my life am I clinging to perfection, and how can I release the need for control? How can I integrate both my spiritual practices and daily responsibilities in a balanced and sustainable way? Consistency is key. What emotional wounds or patterns from my past do I need to heal in order to align with my true soul's path? And how can I shift from a mindset of doing, Virgo, to a mindset of being, Pisces, in order to embrace deeper connection and peace? I think this is a great way for us to lean into it. And again, look at your own personal charts to see where Pisces and Virgo are, to see how this will show up in your own individual chart. And again, look back at your own nodal axis as well to understand what this soul journey is looking like for you. And so that's just a little brief on the North and South Node in Pisces and Virgo. If you guys found this interesting and you would like to learn more with me, you guys can check out my Patreon or find more information about me on my website.
Thank you so much, Richard. And there's a feedback here from Debbie. Impressive presentation, very thorough and great information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So if you can unshare, we will now introduce Susie Holbrook.
Thank you, Maurice. Let me see here. Now, I've somehow hidden, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
I can't somehow make myself, okay, start my video. There we go. Let's see if I can do that.
You have beautiful Mars colors for your presentation.
Yes,
And
oh, thank you. Can you see me?
yes, all good.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So I will share. Okay, can you see those?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
No.
How about you now?
Nope.
I do think I have made it so that you might have to go in and unhide me.
Unhide
That
you.
makes sense.
I mean, we can see you.
Yes, but not my screen, huh? Let's see. So let me open that again.
Yeah, you can we don't see the full screen. We see the
Yes.
whole PowerPoint.
Got it. Okay, better. Are we good?
Good to go. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm Susie Holbrook. I'm a functional medicine practitioner and an evolutionary astrologer, and talking about the Mars cycle, about being in a body can be hard. So right now with this Mars activation, it's so strong. We're all swimming, inundated, breathing this excessive, strong, activating energy. So trying to help through discussion to integrate mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical and giving tools in order to help us stay healthy through this season. And remember, there's always more than one way, depending on your natal chart and your previous experiences with these energies, and perhaps you've mastered them and it's easy for you. So please take these suggestions with always that idea of you are already a master with it or are working to integrate and heal. This is an animation representing the Mars cycle. So Mars in forward motion, coming through the sky. It looks like it's charging. Well, that's Mars. Mars is about instinct and attraction. It's a new cycle that we are initiating in order to find out something of vital importance, something new, something that will change our soul's journey. And so this Mars likes to be moving. It likes to be free. And it is activating in the body. You know, it's the fight or flight response. It is about our adrenal glands and all the various effects that that has for good, absolutely. And it can also have negative effects depending on our relationship with this energy. So in forward motion, moving direct from Earth, looking at the sky, direct motion forward. Now, forward motion. Now we enter the shadow, 17 degrees Cancer on October 4th. This was the entry point to this Mars cycle. And I am going to have natal charts, astrology charts for each of these energies in order to further analyze what we're all experiencing. So Mars retrograde, this just happened on Friday, December 6th at 6 degrees 10 minutes Leo. Now, like I say, this direct motion Mars have substantial effects physically. Mars retrograde, think of that forward motion being stopped and leashed, and we are all of a sudden can't move. We're frozen. We can't activate this and initiate this new cycle of self-exploration. And that can make our adrenal glands function shoot through the roof. And another possible manifestation in the body could be that our adrenal glands basically play dead. And we get this thing called chronic adrenal fatigue, depending on your previous relationship with this adrenal Mars energy. Going retrograde, going backwards from the Earth in the sky. And on February 23rd, we at 17 degrees Cancer, which remember, this is where the shadow started. This is where the release point is. So like drawing an arrow, right, under tension. And then we're all held in expectant waiting and it's released and forward motion again, but it's a huge release of energy. And the question is, what will we do with that energy? And then moving in forward motion, and we're through the cycle come May 2nd. This is the enter into the shadow zone. What I've done for each of these charts indicate transitional energies. And each of these charts has Mars on the ascendant because this is the birthed energy. This is the energy that we are interested in. The rest of the chart plays secondary supporting roles to this energy. So with Mars in Cancer, what's the weapon? What is the experience that we are initiating in order to find out something more about ourselves? Well, this Mars is about emotions. It's about deep emotional process. It's about what makes us feel secure. You know, it's about creating a support system so that we can allow vulnerability, because Cancer does its best work, best healing when we can be vulnerable. And this Mars is one that should work from home, be able to nap when they want, and to snack break, because it definitely is in tune with its rhythms and its needs. Now, this Libra, South Node Sun Mercury down here in the 3rd house, it is about the mental realm. You know, it's about being calm, cool, and collected. So these two are have very different needs and struggle to see eye to eye. And my take on this is that Mars is dragging the rest of the chart into the emotional realm. It's the descent. And possibly what medical conditions could this give rise to, depending on your relationship with Mars? Well, it could be gastroesophageal reflux, because Mars is heat and Cancer is about the stomach. It could be about leaky gut because of the influence with the gut in trying to this Saturn up here. So things to be aware of. All these medical conditions are something that I'm just giving you a heads up. See how you feel. If you're feeling something like this, it could be from Mars. And then I'm going to give you tools to help with that process, that processing, that healing. So Mars retrograde is another transitional energy. Now, Mars is in Leo here and is stationary. So remember what I said, that Mars in direct motion is, even though it's a powerful energy, it likes to be able to have that freedom to initiate. This Mars is stationary. How do you think that makes your adrenal glands feel? Like they freak out a bit when they have to stand still. And this Mars is very different than the Cancer Mars. What does this Mars need? What kind of experiences is this Mars initiating? Well, it's about me being the performer, right? Me gifting my special creativity that I want to be there after I'm no longer in a body. So it's very much about my special purpose. And it is stationary. The retrograde motion phase, it brings in doubt. It brings in the need to ask deep questions about this function. And not only that, but Pluto is opposing that. Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto is about analysis. It's about the mental realm. It's about dissection. And this Mars in Leo, it feels self-conscious. It feels criticized, which is terrible for this Leo energy. So it could definitely give rise to physical symptoms, this doubt, this questioning, this analysis. It could be about doubt versus rest. You know, I mean, the other possible expression of this Mars stationary and then retrograding is about your needing to rest, needing to reconsider. You know, it can be positive. So just be aware there's always a choice. Possible medical conditions. It's the heart axis, Leo, Aquarius. Palpitations could be high blood pressure or low blood pressure. Usually the low would be with adrenal fatigue, chronic issues. So another change in energy is when Mars transitions into Cancer in the retrograde backwards motion. So what does this Mars need? You know, previous we saw Mars in Cancer. It's about emotionality, about building a support system and allowing that vulnerability in order to process deep emotional wounds and understandings. And this is doubting. You know, it's doubting I have a support system. It's doubting I feel anything. You know, seriously, especially with this Pluto in Aquarius opposing, because this Pluto, that analysis, that prove it to me, you know, is a bit condescending really to these emotions. So we might bypass the emotional body. It might go directly to the intellect, which is exactly the opposite of what this Mars needs. So be very careful if you're feeling spacey, if you're feeling like you are getting criticized from the environment, then it is yourself that's criticizing your emotional needs. So important realizations, possible medical conditions, again, gastroesophageal reflux and brain fog for sure. Mars cycle going direct, another important energy. Remember, I talked about that arrow being cocked and then released, right? There's huge amount of potential energy here. So hopefully through the retrograde, through the Pluto questioning, we've made it an intellectual understanding about these important processes, our emotional needs, and our creative offering. And so with that understanding, we are then able to give to ourselves, to feel what we feel, to have that support system, and then to act in a direct fashion in order to make sure I'm okay, and then to move on and initiate new important discoveries about this process. So that would be the best possible outcome. And that, unfortunately, there's all this Pisces. I mean, fortunately, we love Pisces, but unfortunately, right at this time, because it could be a bit chaotic, it could be extremely wild. So please be aware of that. And again, start with yourself and your emotional needs, and then it will flow more smoothly from there. Definitely a risk here with this combination of Mars, Aries, and Pisces, Neptune. It is autoimmunity. And then when we're past the shadow degree, we, in the best possible expression, as we've done our work, we've integrated, we've understood that we can bring our creativity and our intellectual understanding, this square configuration with the sun and Taurus, we can make it real, we can make it long-lived, and it will stand the test of time. So that is the best possible outcome. Otherwise, we might split in fragmented pieces if we don't work through this retrograde phase. Again, heart conditions and that autoimmunity is so strong right there. So Mars effects in the body through this time. And again, please always talk to a medical professional about your particular needs. Don't make any changes. Don't start any supplements without that conversation. But Mars has wide-ranging effects on the body. It can create brain symptoms. I talked about brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, gut symptoms, digestion issues, and leaky gut, gastroesophageal reflux, immune systems. Mars is about defense, so white blood cells, and autoimmunity for sure, hormone dysregulation, anemia, and heart symptoms with high or low blood pressure, heart attacks, lung difficulty with asthma, and then injury. Be careful, wear a helmet. Treatment for Mars, some anti-inflammatories, because most of these manifestations of Mars, bad Mars on the body, is about inflammation. So foods are foundational. Fruits and vegetables, 5 at least a day, in order to help feed the gut microbiome, and that really protects our immune system, protects that inflammatory response. Supplements would be anti-inflammatories. Curcumin, vitamin D, vitamin C, omega-3 fatty acids are fantastic. And B complex, because B complex helps with the detoxification, it helps the cellular function. And pantothenic acid, which is B5, is perfect for adrenal support. Exercise in moderation, don't push it too much, and mindfulness. Gratitude journaling is very healing during this stressful, doubting time. So adaptogens are a really cool chemical because they are very Libran. They're the antidote to all this Mars effect. So acute stress, you could use ashwagandha, L-theanine, which is great at bedtime for helping with sleep, passion flower, and chronic stress, bit different adaptogens here, ashwagandha, Rehmannia, and Asian ginseng. So I am available, susieholbrook.com, and hopefully this has been understandable for everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Susie. And really nice to bring the health aspect, especially as we understand that astrology is first of all preventive. So that's the way traditional medicine used to work, was not to cure, but to prevent illnesses. Astrology is a perfect tool for that. As we look ahead and we see the potential stresses, it can be scary, and we can feel more anxious knowing about this. But at the same time, once you give suggestions for support and help, we use astrology effectively to be, again, in alignment. So thank you, Susie.
Thank you.
So if you can unshare, and we will now introduce Hannah from Chicago, who's taking us to Uranus in Gemini. So Uranus is going to move into Gemini in July, trine Pluto, and have a 7-year ride that is really going to elevate so much. So thank you, Hannah, and all yours.
Well, so first of all, bear with me, everyone, because I'm going to do a 7-year transit in 10 minutes. But I just wanted to start out by expressing my gratitude, just to be in this container, this just outpouring of wisdom, outpouring of knowledge, such great astrologers. And I want to say hello to each and every one of you, because that's how we keep this knowledge alive, right? Just like what Marie said in the beginning, the more we know of, the quality of the times coming, the better we can, align with it. So on that note, I'm going to share my screen. Oh, before everything else, I'm Hannah. Again, I'm Hannah. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. I am originally from Brazil, but I'm speaking from today the ancestral homelands of the Anishinaabe, the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi Nations, also known as Chicago, Illinois. So I just really wanted to take a moment to really honor these lands and honor the traditions of where I'm standing on today and speaking to you from. So on that note, I'm going to share my screen so we can get started. And let me know if you can all see this.
Yeah, all good. We see your
Great.
screen sharing there. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. All right. So I'll be covering today Uranus in Gemini, the upcoming transit of Uranus in Gemini, which is, again, it's a 7-year cycle. So just so we can have an idea, just so we can, it's been roughly 75 years since the last time we saw Uranus go through the sign of Gemini. So, most of us have never seen this. The planet that speaks about revolution, acceleration, breakthroughs, really that helps us usher in a new future. And it's been almost 75 years since this happened. So many of us has never seen this. Those who have seen this, probably don't remember. You're probably too young to remember. And I would like to take you in a little, let's travel through time here to see what were some of the things that happened during this time. And again, Gemini is about communication. It's about how we connect to each other, how information travels, how we connect one city to the next, one country to the next. So this is a lot of what we're going to be seeing in these next few years. So let's travel back in time here. 1400s, that was the invention of the printing press, which revolutionized, the communication sector. Is a huge game changer. Then in the 1600s, we had the invention of the telescope in the Netherlands, which, it's very Uranian because you're looking up to the stars and you're just opening up to a whole new world. Kepler, for those who know who Kepler was, he was studying planetary motions. Galileo was super busy. There's so many discoveries at the time. Galileo himself actually has Uranus squaring Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini. So there's a resonance there. And then in the 1600s, this is the first post office in the American colonies. So again, connecting people, right? Accelerating the way we could communicate with each other. And then we have the 1700s, American Revolutionary War, which is this period, of upheaval, right? in the American colonies, really seeking independence from the British rule. So really embodying that revolutionary spirit of Uranus. And very interesting thing that we start to see this interplay between the twins, Gemini, right? The twins, the brothers. You have England and you have United States. This is also when the Declaration of Independence was signed, which again is such a statement of liberation, right? Independence, a time of freedom that completely changed, revolutionized the story of this country, of this, the United States, and the future of this country. This is also where we're having the transition between the Age of Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution. So again, big deal. And everything is going faster. That's what Uranus does. It accelerates, it speeds things up. So next, in the 1800s, that's the American Civil War. Again, the North and the South, brother against brother, the twins, right, fighting each other. And again, revolution, major social changes, all about human rights and the abolition of slavery. Again, changing American society forever. This is also, and I'm going to go back to this later, but this is also the very first underground railway being launched. This is our first subway in London, but the first subway in the world. Also the transcontinental telegraph, uniting the US and Europe. So this is like the first time they are having direct and fast communication. Lots of great novels were also written during this time. Gemini is writing, it's communication, it's putting words together. And one of them is Dickens. Dickens was busy. He actually has Uranus in the house of Gemini. So just interesting to see all these like players at the time. Newspapers were spreading really fast as well. And then the last time, 1940s. This is the last time Uranus was in Gemini. You have the Second World War, we had post-war, we had the Cold War. This is also in computers. The first computers came into existence. I'm sure you guys have seen that movie, The Imitation Game. If you haven't, please watch it, because the whole thing is very Uranus and Gemini. The English were trying to crack communications between the Nazis. So that's how the first computer is, being built, being discovered, being created. And then we also have the Cold War, which again, it brings that brotherly relationship, even though we don't really consider the United States and the Soviet Union brothers, but we also have to remember that they were allies. They were brothers in World War II, right? They were fighting on the same side, and then now they become enemies. And also the people born during the 40s. These are going to be the student rebels in the 1960s. Those are the protesters. That's the free speech movement in 64. Those are the people in the side and in doing all of this. So one very quick thing to keep in mind during this time, the connection between Uranus and Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto is going to be in Aquarius. It's already in Aquarius, and it's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years. Who rules Aquarius? Uranus, right? So they're connected. They're dancing together. They're talking to each other the whole time. And both are air signs. So they represent the mind, our mental faculties, the human mind, the collective mind, and all of our mental frameworks. So how we think, how we learn, how we speak, the things that we invent, the things that we create, how we bring progress. And like Maurice mentioned in the beginning, they're actually going to be training each other for the first few years of Uranus and Gemini. They're going to be dancing together the whole time. Another big player in all this is Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini. So very, very, very important for all of us to keep track of Mercury the whole time, including the retrogrades, Next year, we actually we have, of course, we have 3 retrogrades, but only one of them is going to be during the time Uranus is in Gemini. So that's going to be the July 17th to August 11th. But again, keep an eye, because the retrogrades are going to be, the Mercury retrogrades are going to be even more important. And I just find it fascinating how we're talking about Uranus speeding things up and Gemini is fast. So the last 7 years, as Uranus has been going through Taurus, Taurus has a much slower rhythm, right? Gemini is fast. So even the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, travels through the whole wheel and goes through all the signs very fast. So that's just a huge acceleration of things, of the times. All right. So what are the evolutionary intentions of this transit? You know, these 7 years. What does this mean in our personal lives? But also, you know, if we look at the soul of humanity, what is this? What's the intention for Uranus and Gemini? First of all, awakening our minds, you know, liberating ourselves from old ways of thinking. So it's like very much the getting a new brain. And awakening, it just, you know, when we think differently, we do things differently, right? We create different things. So that's going to be about elevating our understanding of life, of consciousness, of the way things work together. And a lot of this has to do with diversity. Gemini is about diversity. And that's why I said building better networks, because, you know, Uranus says, hey, there's power in the group. There's genius when we come together, you know, when we connect our minds, the multicultural aspect, the diverse aspect of life. You know, we're all different. But when we come from different places, different backgrounds, different religions, different cultures, and we come together, all these pieces of the puzzle, like very much like our brains, right? Like each brain cell, each neuron has its function, but when they come together, they form a very powerful grid. So this is the intention here, to build new alliances. We're going to see alliances shifting, new partnerships, new organizations, new friendships, new communities being formed. We can even bring the political level into this, like the parties, right? Like some that are collapsing, some that are being dismantled, and new ones coming into existence. Figuring out existence. Uranus wants the equation, right? It wants the understanding. Uranus and Gemini both are like, what is the scientific proof? How did these pieces come together? And demystifying the unknown, right? So that's part of it too. Discovers technological, you know, new solutions, progress. And Gemini is transportation, right? So we're going to see, you know, the development of more efficient cities, you know, Uranian progress and technology into the urban environment, the urban infrastructure. It will be upgraded. It will have to. You know, we're going to start seeing smarter cities, higher technology. And so much of this is related to transportation, right? Gemini. How do we get from one place to the next? And we're already seeing, you know, the electric cars and the charging points. Our cities will need to accommodate this. They will need to be redesigned to accommodate the higher technology. You know, I just wanted to show you guys, you know, as I was, you know, looking into this, when we talk about transportation and the flying cars and the driverless cars, like, can you imagine taking a flying Uber, right? A flying taxi. Instead of seeing your Uber arriving on the road on your screen, you're seeing it fly through, you know, across a river or something, and never getting stuck in traffic again. Very possible here. Can you imagine delivery drones? So instead of your Amazon driver, you know, coming, you're seeing where it's, you know, tracking the driver coming in and getting off, you know, getting out of the truck. It's actually a delivery drone. It already exists. It's called Amazon Prime Air. So we're going to see this, like we're going to see lots of changes. The other thing I wanted to show you guys is the hyperloop right on the right. Remember that our first subway system came into existence during Uranus and Gemini transit. So what's coming up next? This is the hyperloop, which has, I'm gonna try to say this right. It's high speed. It has to do with magnetic levitation and propulsion. It moves faster. It goes through like this vacuum tunnel with like jet-like speed. Again, our cities will need to adapt to whatever is coming up. The other thing is educational system, Gemini, right? Uranus will bring innovation, progressive ways of learning, new ways of teaching, new ways of learning, new methodologies, maybe new, first of all, technology becoming more and more part of a classroom and the way we learn and the way we teach. Maybe this is also new methodologies. Can astrology be part of the school system? You know, are there going to be new methodologies that are coming in and new programs that are out of the box, Uranus? Unconventional Uranus? What about the virtual world, right? Are there going to be new platforms, new gadgets, new ways of connecting? Remember back in time, Uranus and Gemini, we had the first telescope, right? Looking into space. We are officially, you probably noticed, we are officially entering space age, right? It's very clear. We have the James Webb, where, you know, there's talks about mining asteroids, 5G to the moon. This really will only intensify. Space tourism, you know, travel, Gemini, Uranus, space. Very simple, right? A very simple equation here. And Uranus is our communities, right? So it's saying we're not just part of a city, we're not just part of a culture, we're not just part of a country, we're a part of a whole solar system, we're part of a whole galaxy. And Gemini are our brothers, our neighbors. So what does this mean in terms of, you know, life, you know, alien life? I saw this thing recently that said that this quote that said, if you think that there's no aliens in the universe, it's like scooping a cup of water out of the ocean and saying there's no fish or no sharks or just a little bit of water. And to me, one of the evolutionary intentions of this Uranus is upgrading from Homo sapiens to Homo galacticus, you know, we are interstellar beings. So this can't very much be open contact. This is my favorite meme. I've used it so many times. And this could, if this happens, this could potentially change everything. Trade, technology, exchanging technology, being given technology, that could really be a huge, huge game changer. By the way, in 1947, when Uranus was in Gemini, this is when Roswell happened. The whole incident, the crash, the possibility of UFOs, that was during Uranus and Gemini. So very quickly, because I've already covered all of this, the potential is this huge revolution of the mind, advancements and radical, you know, changes in the communication sector, our cell phones, our social media, virtual world. You know, we're already so globalized in so many ways. We're already so connected, and this is only going to intensify, and reforms in educations and all of that. But every astrological configuration carries potential, but also risks, right? No astrological configuration comes with just the goodies. It's always a mixed bag. And that's the beauty of astrology, is that we can understand the times coming and we can make more conscious choices, right? How are we going to navigate the next 7 years? Especially when we bring Pluto in Aquarius. You know, again, these two are working together. They are strong, mental, cerebral energy, and it can connect us in so many ways. but disconnect us from our hearts, our primal selves, which is a super important part of our human design, right? So we got to take care of our nervous systems. We got to take care of our brains. We cannot forget our bodies, because we're all going to feel the energy speeding up. And our bodies, they operate at a much slower rhythm than the mind. So this could also lead to a lot of fast changes, and maybe some of them will not have the proper testing, the foundational work, and enough time to root. And Uranus always brings that potential for shocks and disruptions, which in Gemini can lead to network issues or virtual networks, the media, the news, any sort of communication outlet can be affected as well. Technology, or the ways we use technology, that's a whole conversation in itself. So one thing that I want to say is, please be extra careful with viruses, hacking, online theft, deep fakes. We need to protect ourselves as much as possible, because there can be higher chances of those things happen. And going back to the educational reform, a lot of what we're seeing already is transitioning to online education, right? Which is amazing, because we couldn't even be together here right now if it wasn't the internet. But there can also be repercussions, right? The interaction between students and teachers, and the physical, the coming together, the hugs, the touch, having a screen be, you can never replace a person through a screen, right? So that can also, we have here the risk of isolation. And the dichotomy, because Uranus, I'm here talking about new communities and new ways to connect to each other. But at the same time, there's that dichotomy of also, in many other ways, feeling more disconnected. Last thing is, we also need to be careful about war, right? Statistically speaking, for learning from our past, last time Uranus was in Gemini, we had the World War II. We had the beginnings of the Cold War. We had, in the past, the the Revolutionary War, the Civil War. Neptune and Aries, last time we had the American Civil War, which, we're going to have Neptune and Aries next year, entering Aries next year. So we got to be careful, right? Because Uranus and Gemini will intensify the desire for freedom of speech, right? Speech, Gemini.
We have to wrap things up, Hannah, if you're
Okay.
at the
I'll
last slide.
Sure. So I just show you guys really quick the first ingress. That's going to be July 7, 2025. Pay attention to Venus, which is also about the economic cycles and cryptocurrency, our interpersonal relationships, all of that. Alcyone, which is the brightest star of the Pleiades, is there as well. So, pay attention to that and how that comes through for you. November 8th, the Uranus goes back to Taurus for its last pass. Next time won't be until, many years. And it goes back officially into Gemini for good in April 26, 2026, which is interesting because it's the same configuration as, with Venus, it's 2 degrees. So again, relationships, the our economy, our the stock market and all of that. And the great meeting in June 28th, 2032. So right at the end of this cycle, the Uranus and Gemini, Saturn will come and it will conjunct Uranus. And this is going to be a big test. Does it work? Does our AI, our technology, our space travel, and our flying cars, will it fall and collapse, or will it be successful when it will become the new normal? So Saturn is really going to test all the progress we're going to do in the next 7 years. How to make the best of it? you could take a screenshot of this, but be curious, expand your horizons. You know, this is a time to install new hardware and neuroplasticity. It's a time to change the way we think and access new ways. Don't forget to take extra care of your body, you know, and bringing in the silence and the grounding and being in nature, and take, you know, pay attention to your rhythm and how we can all be doing things and speaking and walking and talking too fast. So anything that can bring you back to the body, move the body. And again, I won't go over because we ran out of time, but I made this cheat sheet. And like Susie said, please check with your doctor before taking anything, before starting anything. But just the how important it is for us to take really good care of our brains and our cognition and our memories and our nervous system. So here's just, you know, you can take this, I invite you to take a screenshot and see if any of this can be helpful. And on that note, I just want to say thank you most humbly and genuinely. Thank you for just the preciousness of your time. I really hope this information is helpful and of service and easily integratable. If you want to know a little bit if you want to know a little bit about me, about my work, my offerings, or if you want to say hi, here's my information. And thank you so much. And over to you, Maurice.
Back to Earth and time and space. Thank you, Hannah. Amazing presentation. A lot to think inside and outside the box. And we are now with Debbie Levine from Florida, Fort Lauderdale, who has really unique and special programs. You know, I had this great privilege to be introduced to Debbie's work, which brings both insight and entertainment and empowerment. So all yours, Debbie.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Is everyone having fun? Because we're about to have fun. Or I'm going to try to make this fun for you and also practical because it's the two sides of me. So anyway, it has been amazing listening to all these fabulous astrologers. And I love, just like you, I love to listen to hear everything that's going on. Like, oh my gosh, Uranus and Gemini, I can't wait, flying cars. I'm already doing self-driving. I love that. So anyway, but now I'd love to take it and get it more focused on, take it to focusing on you. And so thank you. I know I have some people that have showed up. So thank you guys for coming and cheering me on here. And let me get sharing here. All right, thumbs up. Let me know in the chat that you guys can see my screen, and then we will go.
All good.
Good, good, good. All right, so let's get ready to empower your 2025. Talking about power, you might have heard this phrase, knowledge is power. Have you guys heard this phrase before? I heard this phrase for many, many years, but I never really understood this phrase until 3 years ago. So 3 years ago was my anniversary. Yesterday was my 3-year anniversary of being cancer-free. I was diagnosed with breast cancer and I had my surgery December 9th. But before I had my surgery, because my mom also had breast cancer, they were like, you need to get the genetic testing. We need to see, you know, do you have the BRCA gene? And I was like, my mom was like, not hip. She does not like to know that stuff. And I was like, oh, what do I do? And, you know, they were already like, if you have it, then we got to go and we got to, you know, take all the rest of your organs and stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a lot. So anyway, good news. I did not test positive for BRCA. And so I did not have further surgeries, but it made me realize that having that knowledge was power, because it really allowed me to make an educated decision. Oops, hold on. There we go. Awareness, which is what I believe when we learn about astrology and we learn how to apply it to our charts, it helps us bring awareness. And awareness is the foundation of preparedness. It allows us to make decisions rooted in clarity rather than fear, right? I was able to make an educated decision, not based on the fear of, oh my God, well, am I going to get cancer again? Or how is this going to be? But, I was able to make that decision with clarity because now I had new information that then I shared with the rest of my family. Like, you might want to get tested, it's always good to, people like, oh, I don't want to know. If I know, then I'm going to have it. Like, that does not mean, just because you know doesn't mean that it's going to happen. Because to me, it's all about manifestation. And if I know and I'm aware, I could get prepared. And so then I could do preventive things, right? Preventive things to help things not come out to fruition. And if you've never heard the acronym, I'm just going to leave this with you about fear, F-E-A-R. Fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. And that's what happens when we don't have all of the information. So today, I would like to empower you as you step into 2025. I love this definition from the dictionary, is empowered, is having the knowledge, confidence, means, or ability to do things or make decisions for oneself. So you're getting a lot of information today, right? We have six of us presenting, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of information from other astrologers on the World Wide Web, and it can be overwhelming. So I want to help you focus on what is the information that's going to help empower you as you step into 2025. Oops, wrong direction. There we go. I know Maurice did a little introduction, but I want to formally introduce myself. I'm Debbie. I am the founder of Fun with Astrology. I named my business that because as an Aries girl, if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. Fire equals fun. That's my slogan. So I'm an Aries sun with a Leo moon and Cancer rising. If you are a fellow Aries out there, say hello. Maybe you're a Leo moon. I saw someone else with a Cancer rising below that. So I love to cheer you on. So whatever, you can share your big three with me. I've never considered myself a woo-woo girl. I was in consulting for most of my life, starting in accounting. So I'm more of a black and white girl with a splash of color. I give you the information, but I try to do it in a fun and exciting way for you. So now I get to live my truth. I'm retired from consulting. I was a process transformation consulting. I'm all about planning, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you can plan for 2025 so you know exactly where to focus. Now, when I was in consulting, talking about focus, and that was just not pre-planned that I ended on that, but I love how that just came out. Focus. This was my word. I would go into these organizations and there'd be so much information that was being thrown at them. And I would say the word of the day for the meeting is focus. I'm like, it's so easy to get caught up in all the shiny balls out there. Like, oh my God, Pluto's in Aquarius now and Uranus is going into Gemini and Neptune's going to be going into Aries. And you get all this stuff and you're like, whoa, what do I focus on now? So I'm going to try and help bring it back for you to focus so that you know where to look in your chart. Remember that astrology is a tool. It's a tool for understanding our personal cycles and the collective shifts. And so when you hear a lot about these things, you hear about the what we might see, right, from a collective perspective. Is it the flying, cars? What will it be like when Mars, during this Mars retrograde? What could we possibly see as the nodes begin to turn into Pisces and Virgo? So we see the collective, but I want you to remember this because I have a lot of people come to me and they come in fear and they're like, oh my God, I'm an Aquarius and I heard Pluto's going to be an Aquarius, but they're like a late degree Aquarius. I'm like, relax. 2025 is fine for you. So remember that not every transit impacts everyone the same way or at the same time. And that's something that was actually, one of my mentors had said to me when I was really worried because I knew a transit that impacted me when my father passed away. And they're like, well, you can't, that's not true for everyone, right? It was about my chart. And I was like, yes, that's right. I can't project on other people. So remember, it doesn't always impact everybody the same way. So I am calling 2025 a dress rehearsal. It is a dress rehearsal for 2026. So yes, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are all making a move, right? We say the planets are the characters and the signs that they are traveling in, right? That's their role. It's the costume that they're putting on. Saturn's in Pisces right now. He's got his Pisces outfit on. He's like, woo! But he's going to be, soon he's going to be handed that Aries costume. He's like, all right, I'm going to put on my Aries clothes now. And so, but next year, all three of these planets, they're going to be tiptoeing in. It's like a dress rehearsal. They're going to try their new clothes on, but they're going to go back to their ones because there's still stuff to wrap up, which will make you feel a little bit as all these planets get to that 29th degree, a sense of urgency, right? A little sense of urgency. So I want to put it in perspective in case you're one of those people that's worried, because I have my other Aries friends that are like, oh my God, I heard Saturn's going to be moving into Aries. What does that mean for me? Like they're so, right? Everyone's afraid of Saturn. I have to love Saturn. Saturn's on my sun. I made best friends with him. I bring the teacher apples. So I want you to, I look at it, the chart as a pinball machine. So are these transits actually lighting up your chart this year? And of all the, we like to focus on the outer planets. So which outer planet? Is it Jupiter? Is it Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto? Which planet is going to light up your chart? And it might be more than one. It might be more than one. But let's focus, right? Let's bring it back and focus. So I want to show you a bit of perspective. And I'm going to work backwards here, starting with Pluto. Right? So Pluto is firmly in Aquarius now. And next year, through the whole 365 days, he's going to move about 2.5 degrees, right? So if you happen to have planets, right? If you have planets in your chart, or maybe one of your 4 angles, when I say angles, I'm talking about the ascendant, descendant, the MCIC, at 0, 1 degree to about 3, almost 4 degrees, then you might experience this. And I'm going to show you this too, because I'm a working workshop. So we're going to take a look. I'm going to show you on the chart. So Pluto's going to move about 2.5 degrees. Neptune's going to move about, let's call it 5 degrees. Right? So out of 30 degrees, right? Because I get to travel through 30 degrees of a sign. They're only moving, right? I mean, Pluto's not even moving, what, 10%, right? They're 3 degrees. I'm a math girl. Sorry, I was former life's an accountant. Everything's also math. So Neptune's moving 5 degrees. Uranus is moving about 8 degrees. And Saturn is moving about, let's call it 16 degrees, 17 degrees. So one of the things I suggest is looking at your chart, and I think you're going to get a copy of this, but if you're not, you could take a screenshot right now, take a picture of this, and you'll have the degrees so that you can go and look at your chart. So if you don't have planets, right? If you have no planets, say you're an Aquarius sun at 20 degrees, right? I want you to not worry, right? We don't want to, what's the word? There's a saying that people who live in the past, right? They think about the past, they fall into depression. People who are focused on the future become anxious, right? It creates anxiety. They're worried about the future, and the future hasn't even happened, right? So the key is, how do you stay in the present moment? And so I'd love for you to stay in the present moment of today, but I know, again, I'm a planner, so I'd like to at least stay in the present moment of, this month or this year. All right, so I want you to focus, right? Putting it in perspective, these planets are moving a small amount, Saturn more than the rest, but a small amount here. So look to see in your chart where these will be traveling and who they'll be meeting up with. But I want you to put your money, I want you to put all your manifestation and, right, vibration precedes manifestation, and put all your energy into Jupiter, because Jupiter, the big guy, is going to be going 44 degrees. He's going to go from Gemini, 11 degrees Gemini, all the way to 25 degrees Cancer before he starts his retrograde back. So this is a big part of your chart, right? Out of 360 degrees, right? That's how many degrees are in the circle in your chart. It's going 44 degrees. It's going over 10%, right? It's going over 10% of your chart. So this is where I want you to look. I want you to say when I'm going to empower and I'm going to embrace 2025, yes, I'm going to look to see if any of those other planets are going to cause me, some challenges, which again, challenges are opportunities. That's how I like to look at them. Whether there's a planet of opposition, OPP, opportunity, or even if it's a square, right? Putting pressure on you to take action. It's all opportunity. So look at your charts and see where does 11 degrees Gemini fall and how long does it take? How many houses does it go through to get to Cancer at 25 degrees? So I want to show you here. I have to move this chat over here. I want you to focus on the big picture. And so these are, right, this is by July 7th. That's why I picked this day. By July 7th, all of the planets will have moved into their like dress rehearsal role, right? That's Uranus there is moving in July 7th. He's the last one, right? Pluto's already Aquarius. Saturn's in Aries now. Neptune's in Aries. And Jupiter's in Cancer, and Uranus just enters. So on July 7th, so halfway through the year, all the planets will officially be in their dress rehearsal. Now you can see I drew a big line here because that means when I look at it, I can see that all these planets are within, right? They're within 180 degrees, which means they're going to be falling somewhere in some half of your chart. It might be on the top of your chart. It might be on the bottom, might be on the left, might be on the right. But I invite you to look and see, to put these planets, right, on your chart. Maybe you take out a picture of your chart and draw the little picture so you can see where is this influence happening, right? If Saturn and Neptune, both at the beginning stages of Aries, if you have planets at 0, 1, 2, 3 Aries, then you're going to experience this in 2025. If you don't have any planets till 17 or 18 degrees, 2025 isn't your year. There'll be another year for that. So I just happen to, again, here, if you want, I just put some of the keywords for the houses just to see, but you can see here, I'm going to take you here to my own personal chart. This is my own personal chart. I didn't really put the whole thing here, but I kind of drew it out. There's my Cancer rising. My sun is in the 10th house in Aries. My moon's over here in Leo. And so when I map these out, I could see that at some point in 2025, Pluto is going to move from my 7th house to my 8th house. That's significant, this house ingress. I could see at some point next year, Saturn is going to go directly over my midheaven. Now I'm going to go and find these personally. I'm going to go and find my dates. That's one of the things I like to do. I like to plan all these dates, but it gives me the big picture, right? I can see the big picture that there's energy that's going to be shifting from my 9th house to my 10th house. I could also see that Jupiter, right? Jupiter is going to move from my 12th to my 1st. So again, seeing that point that Jupiter's going over. Remember I mentioned you want to see what houses, but you also want to see what planets that might be meeting up with, and if it's moving over any of the 4 angles, that's significant. Now, I took this on the left. I just highlighted the ones for myself. This is just, I cut this out of astro.com. They have, or no, maybe I cut that out of Solar Fire. Anyway, these are all my planets and their points. And so I could see when I mentioned it to you that I know at some point, right, Neptune's going to meet up with my Venus, Saturn's going to meet up with my Venus, they're going to meet up with Mercury, he's at 1 degrees Aries, they're going to meet up with Chiron, Saturn's going to meet up with my midheaven, right? I highlighted the planets. The other planets, this isn't the year for my Saturn return. My Saturn's at 15 degrees Aries. It's not going to, Saturn won't get there in 2025. So whew, I have a whole nother year for that Saturn return. So I invite you to look, right, see where your planets are, and then go back to that other page I had and say, are any of these planets, are any of these the big movers, right? The Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, those are the movers and shakers, because we know Mercury is going to meet up with all your planets, right? The moon meets all your planets every month. The sun meets all of your planets every year. Mercury meets them every year. Venus meets them every year. Mars every other year. But these guys, they're in that focused energy. So the key is for me, and I hope that you guys can see how this could help you, that preparedness isn't about predicting every step. It's about knowing when to move and when to pause. When to move and when to pause. And so if you're someone who loves to plan, like me, I love to plan, and want to go deeper, because obviously I had a limited amount of time today, I do host every year. This will be my 4th year hosting Planning with the Planets. So the 2025 Planning with the Planets, there are 2 workshops. We do one at the end of December and we do one in January. I break it up because there's a lot to cover for 2025. You get a 90-page workbook that has all your reference guides in it, has journals. And we are also doing this year 3 seasonal updates because I don't want you to lose focus. So we'll make our big plan in December and January, and then each season. So in March, in June, and September, we will come back together to make sure that we stay focused for each and every quarter. And you could welcome to take a picture of this slide so that you have the web address and the code. The coupon code for you to save is EMPOWER. EMPOWER. That'll help you save 50% off this workshop. So it's normally $147. You could get it for whatever that is, $74 and change. Or if you are someone, I'm just going to mention, I love planning. I have so many, I have a membership where we get to plan each and every month. It's a monthly membership. You could join and stay as long as you like. And we plan every month. Every month you get a workbook for that month. So say you got the December workbook that has all the dates and information you need, as well as journal prompts to help you process it. Then we hold a monthly workshop to go through the month. We have a new moon workshop, a full moon workshop, and then we usually have one other event. It could be a special event. This month we have my Astro Bestie Stacy, who's actually going to be channeling cosmic forecast for each of the signs. That's super cool. And sometimes we do live Q&As, sometimes we have other special events, and there's a learning library. So if you're someone who likes to plan monthly, I have the monthly membership that's listed there. If you're annual, you could do the annual. And one other big benefit, I'll just throw it in there for you. If you do the monthly membership, my monthly members always get discounts on everything. So they are actually have a discount code to save $100 on Planning with the Planets. So if you do decide to join the membership, send me a note and I will send you the coupon code for Planning with the Planets as well. I want to thank you guys for your time. I hope you have the best, blessed, and exciting and empowering 2025. You could take a picture of this. This is how to contact me at Fun with Astrology, and hope to see you guys again real soon. Ciao, ciao. Thank you.
Hello, ciao, ciao. And many blessings, Debbie. Wonderful, lively, and empowering.
Thanks.
So thank you for sharing your wisdom and spirit. And for wisdom and spirit, let's introduce Merriman Cassell. How are you, Merriman?
I am well, and thank you so much, Maurice, and thank you to everyone who shared and everyone who's shown up. This is just an amazing time. We're living in amazing times.
2025 is coming, and you are on with Venus. Venus is going to have a retrograde cycle this year coming up in March. And usually Venus retrograde coincides with the star point, not usually, always. And so, yeah, let's unpack this. Thank you, Merriman.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Merriman Castles. I am in Sedona, Arizona. I've been a beekeeper for many, many years, for over 20 years, and a passionate astrologer, but I find everything that happens with me is around vibration and frequency. So I am a traditional astrologer, vibrational astrologer, Uranian, and I love working in the Akashic records. But today we are talking about Venus and her ignition with the pentagram of passion as this randy girl rides the ram into Aries. Today, we are exploring her Venus star point, a Venusian event that marks the catalytic moment of our cycles in love, values. This can be money as well, and creativity. On March 22nd, Venus transitions into her morning star phase at 2 degrees 39 minutes in Aries. This signals a time of bold new beginnings for us. Venus's dance, like the Eleusinian mysteries, maps a journey of descent into the chthonic underworld, personal and collective metamorphosis, and a rebirth, a profound reminder of the deep, deep power of love and renewal. Venus's dance with the sun is both mathematically precise and deeply symbolic. Over 8 years, Venus traces a pentagram, a 5-pointed star in the sky. This is a sacred pattern. Yet her truth has often been misunderstood, and her artistry linked to fear, witchcraft, and the suppression of feminine wisdom. The pentagram shape also is interpreted as a rose, which is an enduring symbol of beauty, harmony, and the divine feminine. As we reawaken to the sacred feminine and collectively yearn to restore balance within ourselves and on this planet, Venus's celestial pattern guides us. She invites us to remember our connection to her rhythms and align with the creative and restorative potential of her cycles. Venus's 584-day synodic cycle unfolds with elegant precision, moving through retrograde motion, inferior and superior conjunctions with the sun, and her luminous phase as the morning star, her luminous phases as the morning star and as an evening star. Each transition embodies themes of introspective action and then renewal, reflecting on the cycles of release and rebirth we experience in our own lives. Again, on March 22nd, 2025, Venus will align with the sun, riding the ram at 2 degrees 39 minutes in Aries with an inferior conjunction. This marks her transition from evening star, a time of conversation and introspection because this was in Gemini, to morning star, when her courageous action takes center stage. During this conjunction, Venus actually disappears from the sky for 8 days, entering the chthonic underworld, symbolizing a moment of releasing old patterns and beliefs in preparation for her radiant reemergence. The Venus star point reflects archetypical themes of descent, transformation, and rebirth, seen in the myths of Inanna, Ishtar, Persephone, and even the bee priestesses of Delphi. These stories teach us about the power of feminine wisdom and the cycles of renewal. Yet over centuries, this wisdom has been systematically suppressed. The pentagram, which Venus traces in the heavens, is a sacred symbol of balance, beauty, and creation. However, it has been vilified, labeled as a mark of witchcraft, heresy, and danger. Countless women have been ostracized, silenced, or even killed for their connection to this sacred knowledge. Our separation from our ancient gnosis has disrupted our partnership with the planets, collectively leading us into a metaphorical underworld and away from the harmony, the union that Venus symbolizes. The Venus star point in Aries is a powerful beckoning to reclaim our knowing. Aries, the warrior archetype, calls us to stand courageously in our authenticity, even boldly rebuilding our partnerships with the planets through astrology to live in divine flow with the cycles of the universe. Venus reminds us that feminine wisdom, far from being dangerous, is the force that brings harmony and renewal. On June 4th, 2024, Venus reached her most recent star point with a superior conjunction at 13 degrees Gemini, initiating a key moment in her evening star phase. As an evening star, Venus symbolizes reflection, introspection, and refinement, inviting us to re-examine how we communicate and connect with others. We are currently in this phase where the Venus star point in Gemini is activating themes of curiosity, adaptability, and intellectual exchange. We see this with all of this emergence of AI. This energy encourages us to engage in open dialogue and explore fresh perspectives and experiment with playful approaches to relationships and problem solving. But let's be honest, who doesn't feel the effect of the oversaturated airwaves? The challenge lies in cutting through the noise, avoiding the surface level distraction, and committing to deeper truths. Gemini's playful nature invites us to embrace curiosity, but with intentionality, ensuring that our explorations are both fun and meaningful. As Venus approaches her inferior conjunction on March 23rd, 2025, she descends into the metaphorical underworld, shedding what no longer serves and integrating Gemini's lessons of communication, curiosity, and adaptability. This sets the stage for her rebirth as the morning star in Aries, where she transitions from intellectual reflection to bold, passionate action. In Aries, Venus rides the ram with fearless energy, igniting passion, independence, and creative energy. The warrior lover archetype inspires her to pursue desires with fiery determination, encouraging direct action in relationships, asserting creativity, and renewed commitment to authenticity. Like the bee priestesses of old, Venus reminds us of the alchemy of love and with love and will, a transformative force that leads and creates. Venus's retrograde period from March 1st to April 12th, 2025 provides an extended time for reflection and preparation for her return as the morning star. As Venus transitions into Pisces, her sign of exaltation, from March 27th to April 12th, themes of compassion, spiritual connection, and forgiveness. Forgiveness, what a wonderful concept to think of in this world right now of division. These become paramount. During this time, Venus becomes invisible as she aligns with the sun. This underworld phase is a symbolic death and rebirth, urging us to reassess relationships, values, and creativity. As she reemerges as the morning star in early April, she integrates the lessons of Pisces' spiritual renewal with her bold energy, action-oriented energy of Aries. I found it interesting that Venus vibrates at 221.23 hertz, a frequency tied to harmony and renewal, and also the creative cycle. Her 9.5-month cycle, like a human gestation, speaks to her archetype as the force of birth, as a force in birth. It was interesting to me to find that bees vibrate at 230 hertz, which is a similar vibration or frequency, and that's where their wings flap and transform the nectar into honey. It's a perfect metaphor for Venus's ability to transform raw energy into beauty and balance. This alchemy echoes the work of the bee priestesses and reminds us that creation is a blend of intention, effort, and divine wisdom. Venus's star points often coincide with pivotal shifts, both personally and collectively. In 2013, the Aries star point aligned with the inauguration of Pope Francis, whose leadership emphasized reform and optimistic hopes for renewal. In 2021, the Aries star point occurred amidst global challenges, prompting collective reevaluation of governments and priorities. As we approach the March 22nd Aries star point, several planetary shifts add layers of transformation. Pluto's move into Aquarius on November 19th, which he recently moved into Aquarius on November 19th, is bringing us a time where we know we're going to experience great breakthroughs in technology and societal restructuring. Mars is retrograde into Leo retrograde in Leo, which recently happened in this December. Asks us to reflect on our own creativity and ambitions. Jupiter in Gemini fosters intellectual growth, while Saturn's entry into Aries on May 25th brings bold new leadership themes. These planetary movements, combined with Venus's initiatory energy in Aries, marks a time to think outside of the box with a willingness to pivot. The interplay of these planetary forces invites both personal courage and focused collective action as we are reshaping our world. The Venus star point in Aries represents a profound call for directed action and the reclamation of our own feminine wisdom. This alignment has the potential to catalyze significant shifts on key global and domestic issues. When we look at the ongoing wars in Israel and the Ukraine, these are demanding decisive leadership, while Aries warrior energy inspires dynamic strategies for resolution. At the same time, global alliances between powers like China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea highlight the need for assertive diplomacy that balances strength with firmness. Economically, the U.S. faces mounting challenges from record national debt to rising inflation. Venus in Aries invites visionary reforms, while the potential for trade wars with nations like China, Canada, and Mexico underscores the importance of deliberate and equitable policies to foster stability. Socially, Aries energizes action on long-standing issues like education, inequality, and human trafficking. Addressing these crises requires courageous leadership and grassroots empowerment, with Aries' warrior lover archetype reminding us to fight for justice and protect the vulnerable. Venus in Aries is more than a symbol of courage. It is a call to align with passion and purpose. Her energy asks us to dismantle oppressive systems with compassion and with a spirit of collaboration, elevating human dignity and fostering global connection. This Venus star point is a feminine call to arms, a reminder of the transformative power of love, creativity, and fairness. Aries challenges us to channel passion with wisdom, ensuring our actions bring harmony and progress rather than greater division. So this Venus star point in Aries shines as a beacon of renewal, calling us to reclaim our passions, lead with authenticity, and align our actions with love and purpose. Globally, it demands decisive leadership and fearless solutions rooted in a shared goal of harmony. Yet its message is deeply personal, inviting each of us to become our own warrior, to act with confidence and courage and rekindle our dreams and pursue our path with courage and wisdom. As Venus traces her pentagram in the sky, she reminds us that change begins within. We must embody the love we wish to see in the world. As March approaches sooner than we think, I ask you to pause and reflect. Where are you holding back? What passions are you ready to reignite? How can you step forward with clarity and confidence and compassion? This is your moment to live fiercely, to love deeply, to create boldly. Aries inspires independence and individuality, but Venus reminds us that love and connection are the essence of true strength. This star point in Aries urges you to balance self-expression with the capacity to meet and sustain others where they are. The stars are calling, so how will you answer? And thank you again. I'm Miriam Castles. I have written a series of journals for astrology in real life, for living your astrology while living it. They're calendars and journals, and you can book readings with me online. You can purchase the journals online or visit me in Sedona at the Sedona Center for the New Age. So thank you so much. I'll give you just a
Beautiful.
minute.
And those who are registered in the mailing list for this workshop will get discounts on these journals for 2025. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Merriman. And it's very interesting to see this Venus star point in the beginning of Aries, where we know that Saturn and Neptune will be meeting. So this early Aries point is vibrating for quite a while. And I am now loading my slides. Thank you, all the presenters and the audience for showing up, for being with us in this moment of inception, in this Mars retrograde transformation, where so many of us are recoursing our lives with New Year resolutions, but also, I would say, larger and more profound decisions. I'm coming last because perhaps I'm going to touch on all the previous presentations and maybe, somehow understand how everything gets to be synthesized. Before we dive into the contents, I do want to share some of the upcoming programs. This is a workshop I'm going to be teaching end of December, 3 sessions on how to find the right timing. We know that astrology is powerful, but when we find the right timing for specific events, when to sign contracts, when to move, when to sell the house or buy a new house, all these important timings are part of the astrology study of how we use this tool to advance our lives and humanity. And I have 30 years of experience helping people with that. And it's now time to share this knowledge about how to find properly aligned times. And those of you who are part of this, who have registered, will get a 10% discount as well. Also inviting you to this 2025 empowerment course. Debbie, we're on the same wavelength. I'm doing this through Synchronicity University with Nadia Shah. And what you can see here is every week we're going to touch on a different topic. The first week is Mars cycle, then the nodal axis, then the mutable to cardinal, then Pluto in Aquarius, how Pluto in Aquarius affects other Pluto generation. So the Pluto in Virgo, the Pluto in Leo, everyone, Libra. And then the Venus exaltation, which I'm going to touch on today, and how, again, it captures this rose petal 5-pointed star in the sky. Now, the great thing about this program is that you can enroll by donation. So whatever you can afford until December 31st, you can choose your tuition. And so, I hope I'm going to be able to pay the rent and get support for your contribution. But it is obviously a packed and very rich program. And those of you who are not familiar, these are my books, quick glance. So today, I wanted to speak about not just one planet, not just one phenomenon, but how 2025 is really a series of important milestones, event transitions. The most immediate one will be the nodes coming up really in the beginning of January, shifting from Aries Libra, which has been so fiery and so volatile, to the Pisces Virgo, which will touch on not only health, as Richard mentioned, but also our spirituality and employment development. Virgo and Pisces both relate to service and work, actual work. Where do we, what is our service and how do we generate income and participate in the chain of services. So a lot is going on. But the beginning of the year present a very specific climate where all the planets, including the nodes, are in mutable signs. Jupiter is already in Gemini, Saturn's been in Pisces, Neptune 14 years in Pisces. And while the nodes are staying in mutable signs for 18 months, Uranus is also going to transition to a mutable sign, Gemini. But otherwise, there's a lot of action that activates cardinal points. So the first one is going to actually be the nodes, as we just mentioned. But then into cardinal points, Neptune moves into Aries March 30th. Then in May, Saturn moves into Aries. And both of them will stay in Aries for a short amount of time, just a few months, before retrograding back to Pisces in the fall in the Northern Hemisphere. September, October, they retreat back to Pisces. So we have a glimpse of that Aries energy, but it is still so important because it's the 0 degrees. So the 0 degrees cardinal are the seasonal solstice and equinox points. So any planet that is on a 0 cardinal sign, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, dominates the scene. They become, the ones to direct the new goals. So we have 3 planets, 3 slow-moving planets on cardinal degrees. Cardinal sign, but also not just a cardinal sign, it's 0. 0 degrees Cancer, 0 degrees Aries, and for Neptune the same. And at the same time, Uranus moves into Gemini soon after in July. Again, a precursor as it retrogrades back to Taurus. Then 2026, all of them full on in their new signs. Jupiter is not retrograding back to Gemini, so Jupiter will actually stay in Cancer for about a year, 12 to 13 months. So what does that mean? We have the beginning of the year, a tremendous focus on mutable signs. And I'm putting here the chart for March, close to the equinox. It's not the actual equinox point, but soon after the equinox, we have about, on and off in the course of March, we have 6 planets, and I include Ceres here as a planet, 6 planets in Pisces, and the nodes are in Pisces, which also means that the eclipses will be in Pisces. So we have we have a strong cluster of planets in the signs of Pisces, Virgo, and note that the eclipses, which, if we speak about eclipses, we speak about the portals. Along with that, Jupiter is still in Gemini. Now, what does that mean, and what can we anticipate? So for a while, we've had a lot of these mutable signs, but without the nodes and without the eclipses. So in 2024, there was a mix of these different elements. Now, think about the fact that Donald Trump is a Gemini, so he's a mutable sun and Sagittarius moon. Bashar al-Assad, who had to flee Syria, the leader of Syria who has been exiled, is a Virgo with Saturn in Pisces. So a lot of mutable energy as well. And his nodes are in Sagittarius Gemini. So he, this whole revolution in Syria happened exactly on his Saturn return in Pisces. Now, we speak about Syria. The last time we had a massive mutable emphasis was most recently in 2016. We also had tons of planets in Pisces, the nodes in reverse, Pisces Virgo. The North Node was then in Virgo, now the North Node's in Pisces, and Jupiter was in Virgo with Saturn in Sagittarius, and Mars also retrograded in Sagittarius. And what happened was a mass migration of Syrian refugees crossing waters, Pisces, and trying to reach the shores of Europe. There were a lot of tragedies and a lot of success stories, but it was a time that led to also Brexit in the United Kingdom, separating from the European Union. And that's also when Donald Trump was elected in 2016. And his agenda was very much about border control. So we have now two similar movements that happen, synchronistically as Trump in the United States takes office, and as there's something revolving around the fate of the country, Syria. Now, many European countries are talking about requesting those refugees that came in 2016 to have them return to Syria now that the dictatorship has collapsed. So it's very interesting to see this nodal reversal and this strong mutable energy bringing similar issues to the surface. Now, keep in mind that at the time, Neptune was on the south node. Now Neptune is on the north node. Saturn now will also square Trump's sun. Trump's sun is 22 Gemini, his nodes 20 Gemini, moon around 20 Gemini, Sag. So Saturn, as he gets inaugurated, the president in January, Saturn will be squaring his sun moon, which means it's going to be a very testy start. And when you have a lot of mutable energy, you can expect, just like that flow of refugee flooding Europe, flooding the seas, some of them drowning. There were so many tragic stories of drowning. And then some of them being welcomed to new lives and having a new opportunity. So there's that kind of chaos and mayhem and movement and uncertainty. Like a lot of things are shifting, but we don't have clarity. What is very unique to mutable signs is global issues. Mutable signs make us realize that everything can happen simultaneously. That something in China affects what happens in Russia, affects what happened in Australia, affects what happened in Africa. Like everything is interconnected in the mutable signs. We are everything, just like Richard was saying, that sense of unity. But it also dissolves our identity. We get lost in too many directions. It's not a very grounding energy. It's a necessary energy of diffusion and globalization. So what we can definitely anticipate with this mutable energy, and particularly with Saturn and Neptune being on the North Node, is that many regimes, I'm not saying many because it's not hundreds, but we may see more leaders surrendering, coming down, relinquishing their positions. It has already happened with Saturn being in Pisces, where we saw a lot of shift of leadership, especially in the Middle East, with Hamas and Hezbollah, and now Syria, um, and who knows what will happen with the leadership in Israel. Interestingly, Netanyahu has his Saturn in Virgo, so all this will oppose his Saturn. So he's now, undergoing a trial for corruption. So we can expect scandals. We can expect some of these leaders losing control, and possibly new contracts, new leadership that will then emerge when everything shifts into cardinal. There's a new order. There's a new contract. It's an inception of new goals. So see, this is the June solstice. Sun is at 0 Cancer. Jupiter just moved earlier in June to Cancer. All that squares Saturn and Neptune at the cardinal Aries point. And the nodes are just there, close by. So all this mutability that dissolves, and visualize the wave kind of carrying people, carrying the energies, but it's a little chaotic. There's no beginning or ending. Then we come to the cardinal solstice time, and that is time to put the foot down, so to speak, to erect those boundaries. So if Trump had an agenda to deport a lot of immigrants in the United States, and if Europe has planned to ask the Syrian or Middle Eastern refugees to return, it may very well happen because of these energies. So Saturn in Aries, if we speak about a cardinal point, we speak about a wall. Saturn is walls. It's very interesting that the previous time Saturn and Neptune met was in 1989, and that's when the Berlin Wall fell. So Neptune can take the walls down of Saturn, Saturn-Neptune conjunction, but there's also a need to suddenly put walls. There is always a backlash. When you have a lot of mutability, there is a tendency for excess. Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, these are signs without boundaries because they're global. So there's a tendency to overflow, to overdo, to get scattered, to be multi-directional. It's an opportunity for spiritual development. But when we move into cardinal, that's when the fear kicks in and we say, no, 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 no more. Now think about your own life. Where are you leaking? Where are you in excess, overspending, or taking on too much work, not taking proper care of yourself, overextending in some ways? So all that mutable energy will give you that credit, but then you can reach a point of exhaustion where comes the cardinal time and the boundaries become much firmer. This is why there's always a risk of war with Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries. Because suddenly, whether it's a leader or it's a nation, there's a need to implement more firm boundaries and to be more assertive. So we're looking at a very important shift, which for us can mean that we restructure our lives, that we have a new identity. All the things that will be gestating in the mutable phase will be then implemented in the cardinal phase. So some of the key words here: mutable, international trade, migration, porous borders; cardinal, new order, power and legislation, defense. So from excess to control, from multi-directional to goals and directions. Remember, Cancer is very protective. Aries is very defensive. So we move from an energy that's very open to an energy that's much more contained and controlled. Now, Aries speaks about energy supply, the grid, how much strength, Susie spoke about the adrenaline. How much strength do we have? Military moves, weapon development and control, gun control issues will become a very central theme, especially, in the light of certain event. We can anticipate more gun violence, whether it's assassinations or people misusing that. So I'm taking you back to this workshop that's happening in January through Synchronicity, where we're going to unpack this for 2 hours each session on the nodes, on the mutable energies, and on the Venus star point. And again, that's, tuition that you can decide. Now, what is also interesting is that, with Uranus moving into Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune, Saturn in Aries, all the planets are moving into fire air signs, which are masculine. The only planet that moves back to a feminine sign is Jupiter in Cancer. And that is going to be an incredibly important time, because what we have seen with a lot of Aries energy, especially with Chiron being in Aries, think about the Me Too movement, think about the backlash of the Me Too movement, where there's now this kind of need to reclaim the masculine, the wounded masculine, Chiron in Aries, trying to reclaim itself. And a lot of them are aligning with mentors like Jordan Peterson and Elon Musk and, strong masculine figures. And that's healthy to some degree until it becomes toxic again. So the risk of toxic masculinity is on the rise. It's kind of an echo of Me Too, a backlash. And the Jupiter in Cancer is going to be there to bring feminine wisdom, to I won't say but I will say to continue re-empower women in their priestess role, in their teacher role, Jupiter, the great teacher. And that's exactly what we're going to focus on an event at the end of 2025 at Omega Institute. The focus of our conference then is going to be the celebration of the feminine in astrology. So beyond the moon and Venus, most of the planets are masculine, except for the asteroids. So many of us, including Hannah, will be focusing on re-empowering the feminine, specifically in astrology. But back to our lives, how do we personalize this? Is to understand that we are entering a new identity. The cardinal, zero cardinal are about a new identity. So are you ready for the new you? I want us to end this with a blessing for the new year. As we all are together here, it's an opportunity to really tune in the maximum potential. So if speakers are still there, you can open your camera, switch on your cameras, and let's all come in prayer and visualization of the times to come. So for 2025, starting with Mars retrograde, starting with the Mars-Pluto opposition, may this be a time for positive reforms, for necessary cuts and radical changes, but those that will bring new opportunities for humanity. When we are in a time of great transition, on a larger scale, the shifting of the ages, may all leaders come with a greater awareness of the planet, of sustaining our resources, of overcoming the sense of entitlement to dominate, to exploit, to feel that everything belongs to us, to a place of honoring, respect, cohabitation, and inclusion. May nature and human beings come together, rekindle, and may we, people of all nations on this platform, remember who we are. We share the same skies in North Korea, in Russia, in the Ukraine, in Gaza, in Israel. We share the same skies. We share the same oxygen. We share the same sun. So may this new year, starting with the North Node in Pisces, remind us of this big picture in health and prosperity. So let us each say a word for the new year. Susie?
Oh, thank you. That was amazing. I'm so proud to be part of this with everybody. So thank you so much. But
What is your word for the new year?
my word is, I think it's about integration of emotion and mind.
3 words. Thank you. Merriman?
Harmony.
Harmony. May it be so. Under Mars-Pluto oppositions.
Harmony.
Debbie?
I think mine is going to be flow.
Beautiful, mutable. Thank you. Hannah?
I have 2, unity and alignment.
Beautiful. May it be so. Richard?
Acceptance.
Acceptance. All of us, and may astrology be accepted as well, where it needs to be. In health and prosperity, in union and peace. Thank you. Until 2025.